Hello, and welcome back to the Dorsey Healthy Living Show. As most of you know, or for those that don't, I'm Jeremy, J. Remy, any of those, both of those work. Jeremy Dorsey, host of the Dorsey Healthy Living Show. We are back with episode number 5, and today I have a very good friend of mine, this time not from high school, but from college, one of my very first friends in college, Sarah McCafferty. So thank you, Sarah, for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, if this is your first time watching, I am doing a host of these interviews, and I've done interviews 1 through 4 already, so you can check those out. I'll link interview number 4 in the description. But I'm doing these interviews basically to just show perspective, show different people's lifestyles. Everybody lives it a little differently. Health and fitness can be so cookie cutter, so to speak. And so, I'm trying to get away from that because it's not cookie cutter. Everybody does things in their own kind of way, and that's what makes it kind of awesome. And so I'm here to showcase these perspectives, and so I'm grateful for the first 4 friends that I have on and this one, and then the ones I will do to come. So but let's get to know you, Sarah, a little bit. We'll just go ahead and dive right in. Who is Sarah McCafferty?
As Jeremy mentioned, I am a fellow graduate of the University of Notre Dame, 2018. So been in the workforce for about 2 years. Grew up in South Texas. My dad was in the military for 30 years or so. So moved around a lot as a kid, but definitely consider Texas to be home. Currently living out in Arlington, Virginia, which is right outside of Washington, D.C.
Very nice. Where are you working at now?
I work at a software company called Yext.
Yext. What do you do at Yext?
What's the one-liner that I give everyone? I project manage the build of local web pages.
Okay. Now, I know project management kind of sounds easy because it's like, oh, you just manage a project. We did projects in high school, college, but I know it's not that easy. So is project management easy? Is it hard? Is it up and down? What do you got? What do you got?
As cliche as it sounds, no day that I work is quite like the others. My job in particular is a lot of relationship management with my clients, as well as technical expertise and recommendations. So definitely have learned a lot since graduating from college and really gotten to know some very cool people. But definitely not an easy job, but an interesting one to say the least.
Fair enough. I don't know that I would be good at project management. I'm good at management, but not so good at projects. Just kidding. No, I'm good at projects, but putting them together, I don't know. I've never explored that before, so it would definitely be interesting to see, nonetheless. But no, so what do you enjoy doing in your free time, like outside of work? What do you got?
Well, definitely, not a stage dancer as we're talking about it, but I like to run a lot.
Okay.
It's something I do almost every day. I've started reading again since quarantine started. Picked up a puzzle. That was really exciting. Trying to think what else. Definitely have tried my hand at a couple recipes. The one pro and con of working at a tech company is most of my meals are paid for. So after
Okay.
graduating from college, I never had to figure out the whole cooking thing. And so since we've been working from home, that's definitely been an experience to try to reteach myself how that all works.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I thought of something. Oh, you said you've been reading more during quarantine. What's the best book you read during quarantine?
Um, Gosh, that's a good question. I'm trying to even remember which ones I've read. I mean, the most recent one I've read was called Things You Save in a Fire, which was really good. But definitely looking to read some more interesting novels. I think that one was like an easy read, which was nice just because it helped me quiet my mind at night before going to sleep.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm currently reading The 4 Hour Work Week very slowly. I don't read very fast, so it's taking me some time to get through books, but I also enjoy reading sometimes. So, but it depends on the book. I like self-development books mostly. Fiction doesn't do it for me. So I really enjoy self-development books. So
Actually, I have to change my answer now that you've said that. And it's a book recommendation for you as well. I finished Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown at the very beginning of quarantine.
okay.
So kind of like read during that, but like, was halfway through by the time it all started, but definitely a very good book that would recommend to anybody listening.
Okay. You heard it here first. Braving the Wilderness. Check it out. Probably on Amazon. This is not sponsored, I promise. You can probably get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I don't even know where they sell books anymore. Bookstores are closing. So the internet
Check it
is
out at your local library.
local library. There you go. I don't even know where my local library is. So I'll just go to Target. We'll find it at Target. Target has everything. So no, that's awesome. Great. Well, that was an awesome introduction. Thank you. I also love running as well as reading. I'm not from South Texas. I'm from Illinois. So ill, if any of my Illinois homies are watching from So Ill, but that's okay. We're gonna move right along right into the fun question segment. Hopefully, we'll have some time to get through both of these. But the first fun question: if you're sitting in a first class flight, not coach, first class, who would you be sitting next to, and what would you ask him or her?
So I thought about this question a lot, actually, and I think you might hate my answer, but it's an honest one.
Fair enough.
I don't think I have a person that I really would choose. I have, over the last 2 or 3 years, had a couple of encounters with total strangers on airplanes where I have left with people that I've stayed in contact with since that interaction. And I guess I can tell like a quick story about that, and it'll kind of explain why I'm more just open to the fact of like meeting anybody that I sit next to in a first class flight.
Yeah, absolutely.
So about 2 years ago, I flew down to New Mexico to surprise my friend at her surprise engagement party. And I was actually supposed to run the Marine Corps Marathon that weekend, and it turned into this whole thing where I got hurt and couldn't run. And so I was like, well, this is at least going to get me out of the city so that I don't have to see all the runners around.
Right.
And it was a great weekend, super fun. So glad that I went. It was amazing to see all of them. And I was flying back on Sunday night, and my flight had gotten delayed. I was exhausted, and I was crying on the airplane. Like, I was just so tired and so sad to have left my friends after this amazing weekend we had just had. And so I'm sitting on this flight, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to be at work at 7:00 tomorrow morning. Like, what am I doing? It's going to be 2 a.m. by the time I get home. And so I was on a Southwest flight where they, you can go and pick your own seat. And I was really hoping that no one was going to sit in my aisle, because I was like having this meltdown on the airplane. And so this guy sits down in the aisle seat. I'm sitting in the window, and I'm trying to pull myself together because I'm like, oh, I cannot be this person who's crying on an airplane. Like, that's just not what I need to be doing with my life at age 22 or whatever. And so this guy sits down, and I think everybody knows what I mean when I say you've got the casual airplane banter that's like, oh, it's like really hot out there today. And, where are you traveling home? Or are you traveling, to somewhere, whatever.
Casual airplane banter.
And it's either that or, everybody puts their headphones in and is like, don't look at me sideways. Like, we're just here for our own thing.
Yep.
And so I started chatting with this guy a little bit, and the more I began to learn about him, the more interested I was in this conversation. And so we were catching up, and I can't even remember where the conversation started, but it was, we were in Texas. I was in a layover, and he was telling me about growing up in Houston, and then I was telling him about growing up in San Antonio, and it was going really well. And then he mentioned that he had served in the military.
Okay. We
started chatting about that because my father, as I mentioned, served for 30 years. And so we were catching up about that and talking about how grateful we are to our men and women in uniform and for all the sacrifices that they've made for our country. And we were talking about that. And then we started talking about running because of the Marine Corps Marathon that weekend. And it was like this whole thing. And so I ended up finding out that this guy had made this incredible weight loss journey, right? Had started running about a year previously. He did a half marathon on a whim with his sister. And he told me about how he did this half marathon, like hadn't really trained for it, but
What?
But after it, he had caught the bug. He caught the running bug and started running all the time, and had lost something like 100 pounds at that point. And
Oh my
like,
gosh.
but what he started to do, and this was what really like blew my mind, is he runs every single race with an American flag dedicated to someone who has served our country in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so the first one that he did, that half marathon, he had run for his father, and so he had started collecting a list of names for future runs and stuff like that. And so this guy and I talked about like his career and his professional development and like how far he had come, and my professional development and this military stuff and this running stuff. We talked for 4 hours on this flight. Wow. And I swear to you, it felt like 5 minutes. And at the very end of the flight, he asked me, he's like, would it be okay if I ran a race for your dad? And I, of course, you know, it's like almost 1 o'clock in the morning at that point, started crying again. And was like, oh my gosh, I'd be so honored. And so we got off the plane. I was like, you know, like, I'll probably never see this guy again. We had connected on Facebook, but that was about it. And fast forward about a year, so last September 2019, he reaches out to me and says, hey, the Air Force Marathon is coming up. I'd like to run this one for your dad. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would mean so much. We connected again. Well, it turns out, right, my dad ran Marine Corps of 2019, and so was this guy. So this guy flew out to Washington, D.C., and actually got to present the flag to my dad in person.
Oh, that's
great. And it was this incredible, like, long-winded story, and it's someone that I have been in contact with for close to 2 years now. We've stayed friends. You know, sometimes I reach out to him for professional recommendations. I reach out to him to talk about running, and vice versa. And it turned into this incredible friendship that I never expected to have happened. And so when I first read this question, you know, I thought, you know, it'd be cool to say like all of these people that I would love to sit by on an airplane. But I'm a true believer in the gift of fate, if you will. In the sense that, like, you know, people come into your life for a reason. And this was such an incredible blessing to have met this person who made such an impact on me and on my family. So I don't really have an answer to your question, because I think I'd be curious to see who ended up sitting next to me on that first flight.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. I mean, especially because, like, you know, when I come up with these questions, there's no, like, I don't base them off of a potential answer. I kind of just, oh, this is interesting, let's answer it and come up with it. And whether they're funny or serious, sometimes they are funny, sometimes they're serious. You never know what kind of stories you can get. And so that's kind of awesome that, you know, you were able to share that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Mine, on the other hand, is not serious at all. I would sit next to whatever stranger sat down next to me. But the more interesting thing is, I've only flown first class once, and I was maybe 7 years old, maybe 8. So my question would be for this person, him or her, what should I get to eat? Because whenever I fly, I'm always hungry, and all they have are those snacks. And because I eat plant-based, I can't usually have those snacks, or because I'm allergic to nuts, I can't have those snacks, although they're not serving nuts on flights like they used to. But I usually just end up getting water or having to buy my snacks before I get on the plane. So if I knew I was flying first class, I would just ask the person next to me, what should I get? Because I'm assuming they've flown more than I have and have experience in that food arena on first class flights.
That's fair.
That's mine. Not as heartfelt and serious as running half marathons for people, but I am also solving a problem, and that problem is my hunger. So
I mean, hunger matters.
Yes, it does. It does. So, no, that's awesome. We do have some time for the second question, so I'll just go ahead and shoot. Who would you choose to play you in a movie, and why?
Honestly, probably Mila Kunis, just because I think she's a like rock star. I think she's super funny and a really good actress, and also, like, compared to a lot of the people I've seen in Hollywood, seems fairly down to earth. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. Mine is what most of my friends would expect. His name is Kevin Hart, and I am always going to stick with that. I am not necessarily his doppelganger, but I try to get my hair cut as close to his as possible. No, I don't. There's actually a running joke with my friends about getting a haircut after Will Smith. So if Will Smith is watching this, I got my haircuts based off of you. But unfortunately, I'm picking Kevin Hart to play me in a movie because I don't know. I love Kevin Hart. I love Will Smith too. They're both great. Honestly, either one of them would work. Will Smith or Kevin Hart. The problem is Will Smith is tall. I'm not. And unfortunately, Kevin Hart is about my height. So
Yeah.
it works in that way. And a lot of my friends compare me to Kevin Hart. So
Honestly, they're both great options.
yeah, but Will Smith or Kevin Hart, hopefully one of them is watching this. And then, I don't know. I can have dinner with them one day or something. That'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. So, well, moving right along into the main event, the nitty-gritty section, we're going to get down to it, down to details. The first thing is, Sarah, could you just tell us about your healthy lifestyle? I mean, I've known you for about 6 years now, which is a pretty long time. Not a decade, but 6 years is still a very long time. So thankful for that. But could you just tell us about your lifestyle? I know you've been into swimming. You are, running. From our college days, I used to eat like garbage, pizza and brownies every day. And you always came with a bunch of veggies. And I was like, how are you eating that? And now I'm eating that. So can you just tell us about, your lifestyle, either growing up, now, then, whichever.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess like thinking all the way back, I guess it starts with my parents, right? Both of my parents are super, super active and really into fitness and health. My dad played Division I water polo for the Air Force Academy, and
Water
my
polo.
mom has done a couple triathlons, a couple marathons, and so they both raised me and my sisters to be very healthy, very active. I remember from a very, very young age always being involved in various sports. I think I started with ballet, which,
Okay.
if you know me as a person, is probably too slow and too calm for someone of my kind of energy.
Very much so.
So was not in that for very long. Started some gymnastics. That dream also died pretty early because most women who are in gymnastics are fairly short, and I'm a 5'8" woman, so didn't really work out in my favor.
That's no fair.
Yeah, and so I remember the swimming career actually started when I was about five or 6 years old. I started doing summer league. My parents really believe strongly in the ability to swim. My dad's whole family lives on the West Coast, and so we would go out and visit and be on the beach all the time. And my parents, their thing was kind of we want our kids to be able to swim, so if they go out in the water by themselves, they can get out of a riptide on their own, or they can at least hold their own until someone can come get them.
Absolutely.
Which was, I think, a really fair reason to be concerned, because there's 4 of us and it's a lot of children to keep eyes on. So kind of got involved with swimming, with summer league, was definitely more interested in diving for a really long period of time. Kind of got ripped away from that after, different pools opened up in San Antonio that didn't have diving wells. It was like this whole thing. And so started swimming year round when I moved to Texas. So back in 2005. And it was okay. I didn't love it. I actually hated it. And I used to try to get out of swim practice all the time. Like, I would come up with stuff like, oh, my stomach hurts. Like, oh, I'm too tired. Oh, I have homework. Like, what 4th grader has too much homework that they can't go to practice? Like,
Right.
Nobody. And so it was kind of a long time coming. And I don't really know what caused the mental shift, but there came a point where my parents sat me down and they were like, okay, you are a good enough swimmer where you don't have to swim anymore. Okay. Like, you can pick another sport. You can do whatever you want. We don't care. But at that point I had gotten competitive enough and started to meet a lot of lovely people who I'm still friends with today. And also just, enjoying the sport enough that I kept going. And not only did I keep going, but I became one of like the members of elite teams in San Antonio. Swimming for my high school team and a club team. So swimming, I think at my maximum, I was doing 2-a-days each at like 2.5 hours a day of training to try to keep up with like
Couldn't be
everything.
me.
And it was interesting, right? Like it put my body through a whole lot. And swimming in particular teaches a level of time management, of diligence, of determination, because you really just have to like put in the volume of work.
Right.
I actually ended up tearing both rotator cuffs when I was about 14 years old,
Ouch.
and got into an argument with the orthopedic surgeon about whether or not I was going to be able to go back that season, which my father was not proud of, as I was a personal friend of his, and was like, "Why are you arguing with the doctor?" But ended up, being okay. I also played water polo for a year when I was pretty young, which was a lot of fun and definitely a nice change of pace from all of the swimming.
Yeah.
Joined cross country when I was a junior in high school for some cross training. Kind of hated running. Also kind of loved it, but like told everyone I hated it because everybody told me to go be a runner, and I didn't really want to do what everyone was telling me to do.
Fair.
As you know. And ended up swimming all the way through high school, had a couple of opportunities to potentially swim in college, had the opportunity to walk on at Notre Dame, or at least was in talks with the coach before, I ended up choosing that I wanted to live a different lifestyle in college. And so got to college and started running because I was sick of swimming at that point. It had been, over a decade. And, although swimming was really still a very significant part of my life, I was still coaching every summer. I was still teaching private lessons. Even when we were in college, I would go and teach at the local pool. I really started to love running. And that also did some serious damage to my body. As many people know, I'm pretty frequently injured.
Very true.
But it's a level of intensity that I've had to start learning how to dial back, which has been really interesting over the last couple of years, because that's where a lot of yoga and stuff has come more into play. Because I think I had a mentality for a really long period of time that if I wasn't working hard, right, it wasn't benefiting me at all.
Right.
It was the work harder, not smarter mentality.
Right.
And, I think it was to my benefit in some regards, but also to my detriment in others.
Yeah. It's tough because, I've definitely gone through that where you kind of want to just push.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, or I guess it's even fortunately, our bodies need breaks, and that rest time is extremely important for all things recovery.
Right.
And we can end up doing more damage than good when we continue to push. But there's a time and a place for it, obviously. I guess the goal is trying to find that medium where we don't push too much,
Right.
which it seems like you have found now, but looking back on was pushing really, really hard. So
Yeah.
fair enough. Well, that's awesome. I obviously love running. We ran, together in college, very informally, not for the university in any respect, but I credit some of my love to running to you, others to baseball, and others to the fact that I'm just good at it. But
Very natural runner.
yeah. So it's fun. I find that you get just these. I mean, there's obviously awesome endorphins that are released when you work out in general, but I find that from running, aside from lifting, which is obviously my other thing that I love to do, I get a really, really nice runner's high every time I run. So that's like the motivation to continue doing it. Not to mention running races and getting medals. That's why you do it. It's for the hardware.
So fun.
It's for the hardware. So no, that's awesome. My second question for you is, I know you mentioned yoga, and I recall that you were, doing some yoga teaching in a studio kind of pre-COVID, and now you've kind of converted to Zoom. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I will, like asterisk, it's fake yoga.
Fake yoga.
It's more of a fitness class. Although I think a goal of mine, in the next 5 years or so, I'd like to get my 200-hour certification so that I can teach, all kinds of yoga.
Okay.
I think I've always really enjoyed being kind of like a teacher or an instigator of fitness of all sorts. I mean, as I mentioned before, I was a swim coach for a very long time. I coached from the time I was 14, I think, to about 22, which was a real blessing, to get to watch so many people grow in their love for the sport and their ability to
Yeah.
do the sport. And I think that's actually kind of what triggered signing up for this teacher training back in, when was it? I guess October of 2019. Because, I had just joined the studio because I was, shocker, injured again from training before another race again.
Always injured. Always injured.
I know. And so I had joined this yoga studio because I was like, okay, I have to run my marathon this year. Spoiler alert, I didn't actually run the marathon due to other injuries, but joined this yoga studio so that I could, get myself into a place where I could healthily run this race. And I really enjoyed the community that I had because I was really trying to make some more friends out here in DC and kind of get to know like a different community other than and my coworkers and my Notre Dame friends, all of whom are wonderful, just was looking for some variety. And so ended up signing up for this training, and it's for a yoga sculpt course, which is a core power coined course really, where you incorporate yoga and weights and cardio all into one hour class. And I had actually taken a version of this at Notre Dame, taught by our mutual friend Greta's little sister Erica.
Okay.
Kind of how I got into it.
Shout out Greta and Erica. I don't know if they're watching
Yes.
this. We'll shout them out.
And so I had so much fun doing that senior year that I was like, I got to try. What's the worst thing that happens? And so ended up, going through this whole teacher training, met some wonderful, wonderful women, really empowering, really strong, and really great community. And ended up trying out to become a teacher with Core Power, and was hired in February and started teaching my classes. And then, COVID happened, and I was really bummed because I had just finally gotten my own studio space and was really hitting my stride with my classes. But then, I started to think during COVID, I was getting super down. Like I wasn't working out because I was injured from running again. And I feel like that's like a common theme in all of my stories as to why I do things. And was desperate for some kind of, one, social interaction, and two, exercise to get my endorphin levels back up. And so reached out to a couple of different friends and was like, hey, if I did this, if I taught this class on Zoom, would you come? And, I got a lot of interest, and so started to teach on Zoom. And it's been a lot of fun because it's not only been a good exercise outlet for me, but it's been a really good creative outlet because, not nobody, but a lot of people don't have weights at home. So I had to first put together solely body weight workouts, which was a totally different realm for me than what I had been doing before. And, creating and curating interesting and exciting playlists, because if you work out to boring music, well, that's no fun. So
this is true.
Yeah. And so although I definitely miss teaching in a studio and missing the interaction that you have with students in person, right? Like getting people to count down with you and seeing their faces and them being excited to be there in the studio. It's been really such a blessing to have the ability to teach on Zoom and still, work out myself, also give other people an opportunity to continue to exercise when it is so hard to get motivated right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just will attest, Zoe and I have done some of these yoga sculpt classes, and they're tough, okay? I like to think I'm in pretty good shape. I enjoy HIIT workouts and running and lifting, and I did one of these, and it was fun. Well, Zoe might say otherwise, but we can agree. Zoe and I could agree that these were tough. So if anybody out there wants some kind of yoga sculpt class that'll like get you good for a solid hour, sign up for her classes. I'll throw a little plug in there for you. But no, it was definitely a good workout. Tough, but worth it. Really good stuff. So no, that's awesome. I'm glad you've been able to kind of lean into the passion that you have for teaching fitness. And even though COVID kind of derailed that, as it has for a lot of us, you've been able to find another outlet through which to be able to help yourself and help others. So I think that's kind of the goal at the end of the day, to be able to impact lives as well as our own. So thank you for sharing that. So
yeah.
with that, this was great. I thank you for coming on. You shared a lot. I love the story about, the first class. It's definitely not what I expected, but it was awesome nonetheless. And then, obviously I think the overarching theme of this is that Sarah gets injured more times than she's healthy, which is true. So it sucks, but it's true. So, but no, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So for Sarah, I'm Jeremy. Notre Dame friends call me Jeremy. High school friends call me versions of that. Honestly, my mom and my brother and Zoe are the only ones who call me Jeremy. So for Sarah, I'm Jeremy, and we'll see you next time on the Dorsey Healthy Living Show. See ya.